Remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on more awesome content. Hey everybody, what's up? Was this a good episode of Rebels or what? If you don't know that answer, then come on, take a trip with me on this week's Star Wars Rebels recap. The episode title of this one is Not Just for Show, and it is probably the most creative opening I've seen since Rebels was started. The show literally starts out from Callus's viewpoint as he wakes up hearing an alarm throughout his light cruiser and goes and opens the door, and a stormtrooper comes up in his face, and he goes and washes his face, and then he looks in the mirror and it ends. But even though it didn't stay that way for the whole episode, which would be dramatic if you were to ask them to do that, but that was a very creative opening. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I completely taken by surprise. Anyway, basically the premise of this episode is that Ezra gets captured on purpose to let Kallus know that the Empire intercepted a transmission from Fulcrum, and basically Kallus's identity as Fulcrum is at risk. He's trying to basically extract him back to the Rebel base. And before he can do that, they get called onto Thrawn's Star Destroyer, because Thrawn wants to basically let them know he's closing in on the location of the Rebel base, and on top of that, he lets them know he knows about Fulcrum, he's close to discovering who it is, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the Rebel base, him closing in on it is true, but it also was bait to try and to bring out Fulcrum Traitor. Thrawn knows it was someone that was in the meeting room, which only consisted of a few people, including Lieutenant Lyss, who's an over-eager, young officer who's just trying to impress everybody and raise up the ranks real quick by being a complete kiss-ass. So, Kallus goes and basically spends the whole episode pinning everything on Lieutenant Lyss, getting Ezra out while using Lyss clearance codes, and then entering Grand Admiral Thrawn's office with Lyss code cylinder, and basically pinning the whole thing on Lyss as he replaces the planet that the Rebels base is on with a decoy planet, which, side note, Thrawn is smart, and I think Kallus clearly underestimated Thrawn's potential genius in this episode, because replacing the decoy planet with a random other planet, he basically, in my mind, just told Thrawn exactly where the Rebel base is. Thrawn most likely could have the map memorized, and especially he's narrowed down most of the planets down to a select few handful of planets, so it wouldn't be even that hard to memorize for any average person, let alone Thrawn. So by replacing it with a decoy planet, he essentially probably just let Thrawn know exactly which planet the Rebel base is on. But that's just side note. We'll see how that turns out. Kanan and Rex are obviously coming to extract Ezra and Kallus. So after he spends the whole episode trying to pin this on Lyss and everything like that, Colonel Yularen is also there investigating and kind of watching over. If you remember Colonel Yularen, he is actually from the Clone Wars and was an admiral back then who helped the Jedi for the Grand Army of the Republic. And of course, like many other people from the Republic, especially officers, he transitioned over to the Empire. And it's good seeing him again. He has the same voice. Tom Kane is voicing him again. So I was like, why does this sound so familiar? And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember who this is. So it was really cool seeing him as a cameo. He is now the ISB kind of top dog. Nobody escapes from him as far as traitors. He's really good at his job at uncovering traitors. So he's there to kind of oversee and basically help figure out who exactly is the traitor, who is Fulcrum. He's kind of just over there watching the whole time. Kallus was one of his best students, so he kind of doesn't really suspect Kallus for most of the episode. As we get on in the episode, Ezra gets stuck in the office while they're hacking Thrawn's database, and Kallus helps Ezra escape. Thrawn doesn't really see who escaped. He didn't really see Kallus or any of that. He still, quote unquote, thinks it's Lieutenant Lyss, all the way up until the end, where Lyss basically captures Lieutenant Price thinking she's the traitor, and then Kallus captures him saying he's the traitor and gets taken away by Colonel Yularen. And instead of extracting because Kallus thinks he's in the clear, he stays to do, because he said he can do more good as Fulcrum in the Empire than he can defecting to the Rebels officially. But sadly for him. Thrawn is a genius, and you can't get anything over it. The scene then cuts to Thrawn at the very end, and basically Thrawn explains to Colonel Yularen everything Kallus did, as far as impersonating List, using his code to get him to look like the traitor, and all of that. He goes over every last bit of it, especially based off the fact that Ezra was the prisoner, and Kallus mentioned nothing of the sort to Thrawn, that Ezra was the prisoner that got transferred over to Thrawn's Star Destroyer. But I think Thrawn also knew anyway. The episode ends with Thrawn basically saying that he thinks Kallus can do more good as Fulcrum than he can as actual Agent Kallus, basically hinting that, you know, that's why he didn't say anything. That's why he kept Kallus on board, and let him think that he's in the clear. It wouldn't be hard that now that he knows he's Kallus, to intercept his transmissions to the rebels and basically be used against the rebels. His information be used against them, feeding false information like you would to anybody you know as a spy. So, genius, Thrawn, genius. And now for the review portion of the episode. Overall, I must say I was super stoked by this episode. Like, I was so impressed from the beginning to the very end of the episode. I was watching intently. Everything just was like, oh my gosh. Like, it kept my attention so well. It was so well crafted that I was like, who's the writer and director for this episode? Because this is fantastic. It just felt like movie material or something like that. Especially the beginning, the creative part about, you know, Kallus. You saw it literally through Kallus's eyes, and then up until the end where, you know, I figured Thrawn would know, but there was still that doubt that I was like, please don't make Thrawn look dumb again. And they didn't. This really showed off Thrawn's potential. It was really cool how they showed him fighting. He definitely has martial combat skills. That was something they didn't really show yet. So that now you know that about Thrawn, and know he's more of a fearsome foe, not just for his intellect, but for his actual physical prowess as well. And then Colonel Yularen, I think, was a super cool addition to this episode. Not only did they get the voice back, but seeing, you know, where he's at now and all of that, how he's, you know, the top interrogator of the ISB and all of that. I think that's really cool. It kind of highlighted the fact that the Republic officers transitioned over to the Empire, even though they worked with Jedi, even though they it wasn't only the bad people that transitioned to the Empire, it was good people too, because Colonel Yularen wasn't a bad person in the Clone Wars. He worked with the Jedi, he helped them, he was just doing his job, and it was just kind of an interesting thing to see that and hear, and have them highlight it, that not everybody sees the bad part of the Empire, and some people that were good still believe in the Empire's vision. So I think that was a really cool thing to go along with this Imperial themed episode. But I mean, this episode was definitely fun. I liked it. Definitely think that Thrawn, now we're getting really close to Thrawn knowing the location of the rebel base, and I think that's going to have to play into Thrawn's finale for the season. Is obviously going to be him attacking the rebel base, discovering it, whatever. That's going to be Thrawn's finale of the season, is concerning the rebel base as a whole, and maybe seeing them relocate with Mon Mothma, and that's probably where she's going to come in and all that. So this episode is definitely pushing closer and closer to that. I'm definitely looking forward to see what happens with Kallus eventually, when that does happen. See, like, when he outlives his usefulness as Fulcrum to Thrawn, how is he going to get away? Is he going to not get away? Is he going to die? I don't know. That whole thing is pretty cool, and definitely a lot of speculation to go off of from this episode. Good episode. 2 thumbs up. Make sure you guys check out my other content right here on the screen. Last time did a Rebels recap, check that out. And I did a live stream earlier this week. You can check that out right here as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.